Here's a question that's going to make you uncomfortable, and I want you to actually answer it honestly, not just skim past it. When was the last time you finished something that actually mattered? Not organized your to-do list, not researched the best way to start, not rewatched another motivational video, made another plan, reorganized your desk, color-coded another schedule. When was the last time you actually finished something that moved your life forward? If you had to pause and think about that for more than a few seconds, I need you to hear something that's going to sound strange at first. You might not have a motivation problem. You might not even have a discipline problem. You might have something far sneakier, something that convinces you you're working hard while your actual life stays exactly the same. Psychologists have a name for it. And once I explain it to you, you are going to start noticing it everywhere, in your own daily routine, in people around you, maybe even in patterns you've defended for years as just being thorough or just being careful. Here's the disturbing part. Fake productivity doesn't feel like laziness. It feels like work. It feels like effort. It even releases the same satisfying sense of accomplishment as real progress, which is exactly why it's so dangerous, and exactly why so many hardworking, well-intentioned people stay stuck in it for years without ever realizing what's actually happening. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why your brain tricks you into feeling productive while going nowhere, and I'm going to show you the precise, practical way to tell the difference between real progress and its convincing imitation, starting today. Let's define exactly what we're talking about, because this concept only becomes useful once it's specific. Fake productivity, sometimes called productive procrastination, is the pattern of engaging in tasks that look like meaningful work, feel like meaningful work, and even require real time and effort, but ultimately don't move you any closer to the outcome that actually matters to you. It's answering 40 emails instead of writing the one difficult report that's actually due. It's spending 3 hours researching the perfect workout plan instead of doing any workout at all. It's endlessly refining a resume's formatting instead of actually sending it anywhere. It's reading book after book about discipline without ever practicing discipline itself. Why your brain falls for it. Here's the part that explains everything. Your brain doesn't actually reward results. It rewards the feeling of forward motion, and it turns out those two things are far easier to separate than most people realize. Every time you complete a task, any task, regardless of whether it actually matters, your brain releases a small hit of dopamine, the same neurochemical involved in motivation and reward. Crucially, dopamine responds to completion, not to importance. Answering a low-stakes email gives your brain almost the same reward signal as making progress on a genuinely difficult, meaningful project. Sometimes even more, because the email is easier and faster to finish. This creates a devastating trap. Your brain will always prefer the task that delivers a quick dopamine hit over the task that delivers real, long-term value, unless you deliberately intervene. Left on autopilot, most people's days quietly get colonized by dozens of small, easy, low-value tasks, while the 1 or 2 tasks that would actually change their life keep getting pushed to later. The busyness disguise. There's a second layer that makes this even harder to catch. In many cultures, and especially online, busyness has become a kind of social status symbol. Being constantly booked, constantly responding, constantly slammed signals importance and work ethic. This creates a subtle incentive to look busy, sometimes even to feel busy, independent of whether that busyness is actually producing anything of value. Research on time management has consistently found something counterintuitive. People who report feeling the busiest are often not the most productive. They're frequently the ones who've lost the ability to distinguish urgent-feeling tasks from actually important ones. Their days are full. Their results are not. Let's get specific, because fake productivity rarely looks the same twice. It's a shapeshifter, and I want you to recognize its most common disguises. Disguise 1. The preparation trap. This is the endless cycle of getting ready to start, researching, planning, buying the right tools, setting up the perfect system, that somehow never actually arrives at starting. Preparation feels productive because it genuinely requires effort and thought, but past a certain point, more preparation stops adding value and starts becoming a sophisticated form of avoidance. Because as long as you're still preparing, you never have to face the risk of actually attempting the real thing and possibly failing at it. Disguise. 2. The administrative avalanche. This is burying yourself in small, easy, urgent-feeling tasks, emails, notifications, minor errands, tidying, that constantly demand immediate attention, while the one task that actually matters sits untouched because it's harder, scarier, and doesn't scream for your attention the way a notification does. By the end of the day, you're genuinely exhausted and genuinely confused about why nothing important got done, because you were, in a real sense, working the entire time. Disguise. 3. The perpetual student. This is consuming endless content about how to do the thing instead of doing the thing. Watching another tutorial, reading another book on the topic, following another expert. Learning has real value, but past a certain threshold, it quietly becomes a comfortable substitute for action, because learning feels safe and forward-moving, while actually attempting the skill exposes you to the discomfort of being bad at it initially. Disguise 4. The perfectionist loop. This is endlessly refining something that's already good enough, polishing, editing, adjusting, long after the point of diminishing returns, because finishing means submitting it to judgment and continuing to improve. It feels safer than finding out if it's actually good enough in the eyes of others. Disguise. 5. The multitasking mirage. This is jumping between several tasks simultaneously, feeling intensely occupied the entire time, while actually completing very little of any of them. Research on task switching has consistently shown that the human brain doesn't truly multitask. It rapidly switches attention back and forth, and each switch carries a real cognitive cost, meaning the busy, scattered feeling of multitasking often produces significantly less actual output than focused, single-task work, even though it feels more productive in the moment. Here's the part that surprises most people. Fake productivity doesn't primarily catch lazy people. It catches conscientious, hardworking, often anxious people, the exact people who care the most about doing well. Why? Because underneath most fake productivity is a very real, very human fear. The fear of finding out that your best effort on the thing that actually matters might not be good enough. As long as you're preparing, researching, or handling emails, you're technically safe. You haven't actually put your real effort on the line yet, and so you haven't risked the possibility of real failure. This is why fake productivity often intensifies right before the most important tasks, a phenomenon closely related to what researchers call self-handicapping. On some level, staying busy with lower-stakes tasks protects your self-image. If you never actually attempt the thing that matters most, you never have to face concrete proof of your limits. You get to keep the comfortable, unproven belief that you could succeed at it if you really tried, because you never actually tried. This explains a pattern that confuses so many people. The more something matters to someone, sometimes, paradoxically, the more elaborate their avoidance of it becomes. Not because they don't care, because they care so much that the risk of failing at it feels unbearable. So busy work becomes an unconscious protective escape hatch. Let's be honest about what this pattern actually costs over time. It steals your years, not just your days. A single day of fake productivity feels harmless, but strung across months and years, this pattern is how genuinely capable, hardworking people arrive at 40, 50, 60 years old, having produced far less than their actual ability would have allowed. Not from lack of effort, but from years of effort aimed at the wrong things. It erodes your self-trust. Every time you tell yourself you'll really start tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes another day of busy avoidance, a small crack forms in your trust in your own word. Over time, this accumulates into a quiet, corrosive self-doubt, not because you're incapable, but because you've watched yourself break promises to yourself so many times. It creates chronic, low-grade anxiety. Part of your mind always knows, even when you're busy avoiding it, that the important thing is still sitting there, unfinished. This creates a persistent background hum of guilt and unease that never fully switches off, even during moments that are supposed to be restful. Because deep down, you know the busyness isn't actually solving anything. It quietly protects you from growth. Real growth requires attempting things you might fail at. Fake productivity, by keeping you perpetually almost ready, insulates you from that risk, but also from the actual skill development, confidence, and results that only come from real attempts, including the failed ones. Now here's the practical part: how to actually break this pattern starting today. Step 1. Define your one real metric. For any goal, identify the single action that, if completed, would represent genuine forward movement, not preparation for it, not research about it, the actual thing itself. Sending the application, writing the first draft, making the call. Everything else, however busy it makes you feel, is secondary until that specific action happens. Step 2. Do the real thing first. Before opening email, before quick admin, before any small, easy task, do the one thing that actually matters, even for just 20 focused minutes, first thing in your work session. This single reordering defeats fake productivity more effectively than almost any other technique, because it removes the opportunity for your brain to fill the day with easy dopamine hits before you've touched the hard thing. Step 3. Set a finish line, not a perfect line. For anything prone to the perfectionist loop, decide in advance exactly what done looks like, a specific, concrete standard, before you start. This gives you a clear line to cross, instead of an infinite, blurry standard that always allows for just a little more polish. Step 4. Name the fear directly. When you catch yourself deep in preparation, research, or busy work around something important, pause and ask honestly, what am I actually afraid will happen if I attempt the real thing right now? Naming the specific fear, of failure, of judgment, of finding out you're not as capable as you hoped, takes away much of its unconscious power over your behavior. Step 5. Track output, not hours. Shift your daily self-check from "how busy was I?" to "what actually got finished?" This single change in how you measure your own day retrains your brain, over time, to value completion over motion, which is, in the end, the entire difference between fake productivity and the real thing. If you've spent years feeling constantly busy, constantly tired, and still somehow behind on the things that actually matter to you, I want you to hear this clearly. You were never lazy. You were protecting yourself from risk in the most convincing disguise your mind could find. Effort that looks and feels exactly like progress, without ever requiring you to face the thing you were actually afraid of. Real progress doesn't always feel comfortable. Sometimes it feels like doing less, more slowly, on the one thing that actually scares you, instead of doing more, faster, on everything that doesn't. If this helped you see your own pattern clearly, subscribe, because next time we go even deeper into the quiet mental traps that keep capable people stuck.